What's going on, everyone? I am back again today with another fun deck for set 4, and that is Kazuda Red, which is going to be a lot of fun. I hadn't made this one yet because I was waiting for a particular event, They Hate That Ship, to be dropped and actually active on Karabast for us to actually get use out of this. Now that it has, we're going to see what it can do alongside Kaz and his group of, well, some pretty strong units. With that said, a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, and also I have a TCG player link in the description down below. And alongside that, just noting, if you want to sign up for the tournament that is going on about a month from now, be sure to check out the links in the description down below. Let's talk about Kazuda and Kazuda Red particularly. So this was kind of an obvious choice to some degree for a lot of people when they were looking at Kaz, mainly because Tarkin Town is just so exceptionally strong. Now it's a little bit interesting because we are not running a lot of typical aggression units that you would see in aggression heroism, mainly because there's a lot of units that are in cunning that work really well with Kaz, right? Especially in the 2-drop slot. We have the Fireball, which is absolutely amazing in this deck, a 3/3 Ambusher in space. We got the Fugitive Wookiee, which just is like a 3/3, kind of like a Battlefield Marine. L3 and Crafty Smuggler are both shielded units, which are pretty important just to guarantee get in some damage. We've got things later on in the curve like Millennium Falcon and Contracted Hunter, which are absolutely amazing with Kaz. A 4/4 Ambusher for 3 is crazy good, and a 3/4 immediately readied up, as you all have seen, are just really good. As we go further and further down the curve, what you'll notice is our early drops are some ground units, but the later drops are all space units. And the reason for this is They Hate That Ship. On turn 1, you're able to play a 4-drop space unit with They Hate That Ship. So we've got the Razor Crest as our turn 1 4-drop. To be honest, what I've found with this event is turn 2, I like it a little bit more. And we've got Senatorial Corvette and Tactical Heavy Bomber as options for 5-drop space units. There's really not that many. But then on top of that, we've got Rebellious Hammerhead and Home 1. Now, Home 1's a particular synergy with this because you generate space units for them, which will reduce the cost on Home 1, and you're reducing the cost on Home 1 with They Hate That Ship, which is really, really solid. Rebellious Hammerhead, this can come down, well, essentially, this gives a 2 resource discount. So 4 resource for Rebellious Hammerhead, that's going to be a 5/7 coming down and is probably going to hit for 3 damage, which is pretty nice. Any unit, by the way, with this Rebellious Hammerhead, that can do some pretty nice work. All of those are pretty good options with They Hate That Ship, just kind of like another or 2 of them type effect. We've got some punch-its, which are really nice, cheap ways to pump up your units and get in some damage with some of the space units that we have. Surprise strikes to round out, as well as a bunch of other drops in the middling portions of the curve. Kazuda, as a unit, that's just going to remove a lot of these unfortunate abilities like Contracted Hunters, Fugitive Wookiees, things like that. And of course, to deploy as a +3/+3 upgrade or just a 2/5. Honestly, as a 2/5 happens a little bit more often. And then we got a few pilots to fill in the curve. Han obviously works really well with Millennium Falcon. Biggs works well just as a 1-drop +2/+1 potentially. And especially with the fighters, can give like Overwhelm. And that's kind of what we're doing with Kaz Red. There's a lot of different ways to go about this particular build, or Kaz Red in specific. This is just something that I was trying out, indexing a little bit more towards They Hate That Ship, and it's been a good amount of fun. So let's dive into some games and see what we could do with our good old friend, Kaz Red. Okay, and starting us off with our first game, we got a Django Red, which is going to be a tough matchup, I will say. This is not a very good hand. We got a very expensive curve here. This one's going to be a little bit better. The punch it can be okay. We'll see. And we do have the Fireball and the double Fugitive Wookiee. We'll go ahead and resource one of those. And do we want to do the second one or just the Senatorial Corvette? I think actually I'm going to resource this punch it just to give me more options here. They've got a First Order Stormtrooper, huh? I will go with the Fugitive Wookiee. And we'll see what my opponent's got here. They've got 2 First Order Stormtroopers on turn 1, which is not bad. Not bad. Contracted Hunter. It actually looks pretty good here. I'm going to resource this Biggs, or maybe just the Surprise. Now I'll resource the Biggs here. I think I'm going to start taking out my opponent's units. I don't really see a reason not to. We'll take an extra point of damage to our Tarkin Town. They can choose to get in a damage. They're going to take a couple damage to our base. We're going to go Contracted Hunter, Ambush. We will take another point of damage to our base. And And this is going to prevent a P38 from finishing off our contracted hunter. And we'll see what my opponent's got here. We took out both their units. We will just go ahead and lose abilities on the contracted hunter, claim initiative. And I like where we're sitting because we're going to be able to use this fireball to actually ambush the Lurking TIE Phantom. And then we can deploy Kazuda or just go ahead and have him sit out. Triple Dark Raid coming in. Okay, that makes sense. See what they've got. Triple Dark Raid, what do you have? Okay. Let's go ahead and remove abilities on the contracted hunter. And then let's go ahead and just get in for 7. Looks like they're probably just going to kill off my fireball. Sure, let's go ahead and get in for 3. We're going to go ahead and deploy the Kazuda. And I suppose we'll select these two. Doesn't really matter here. Han Solo, not a bad one. Crafty Smuggler, also not too bad of a one. I think, though, I will resource this Crafty Smuggler because I kind of want to get down this Senatorial Corvette here. No, they can draw 3 cards, I suppose. Let's attack in with Kazuda just to remove some abilities on these units. ISB agent comes in. That's fine. Let's go ahead and get in for 4 into their base. What did they reveal, by the way? Oh, they have another I Am Your Father. Okay, let's just drop in a Senatorial Corvette then. You're going to use Django, probably finish off this contracted hunter is my guess, but I guess we'll see. Let's go ahead and claim initiative. And Razor Crest, not a bad one, not terrible, not great. Okay, let's go ahead and pilot this guy onto the Senatorial Corvette. That's going to get in for 7. And then we have the finishing blow with a surprise strike, assuming they don't have anything. If they do, we just get down the Razor Crest, which is still going to be a nice one. They're going to go ahead and, looks like, exhaust the Kazuda, which makes a good amount of sense. Let's go ahead and actually smuggle out this L3 because it's going to give us a shield, which is really a lot better than the Razor Crest. I Am Your Father. No. I suppose I'm just going to claim initiative now. We'll see what they get. I'm not sure what the I Am Your Father's doing here. I haven't seen that one before, but, you know, maybe our opponent's getting some value out of it. Now, every single one of our units is lethal. I went with the L3 over the Razor Crest just because it does have a shield token, which is a lot tougher to deal with. They've got the Elite P38. Sure, they're going to go ahead and kill off the Kazuda. Looks like we just win because of the Senatorial Corvette, but not a bad game 1. A little bit of an odd, couple of cards coming out from our opponent, but not a bad one. Okay, into our game number 2 up against a Wedge Red. This will be a fun one. We've got a reasonable hand here. I don't expect our opponent to really do anything too crazy. Well, besides putting a bunch of pilots on things is what I'm expecting. So I don't know if the Contracted Hunter is really the direction we would want to go. I'll keep it. Will I? I think I'll resource this L3, and then I think I'll resource probably the Contracted Hunter. I'm surprised our opponent's not playing the Tarkin Town, but we'll see what they've got. Just waiting for our opponent to decide what to resource. Not going to mulligan this one. I think this is a totally reasonable hand. I'm expecting our opponent to go turn 1 something plus pilot, turn 2 something plus pilot. So having a Millennium Falcon is really nice. The Razor Crest could also be pretty nice because we can start bouncing things. I'm just a little bit worried about being completely run over with some very nice value. So we were really looking for a few different things to stop that. And Millennium Falcon is kind of one of them. Come on, opponent. Let's see it. All right. Resource the L3. Let's resource the Contracted Hunter. As I said, I don't expect that to be all that great. Crafty Smuggler, turn 1. They're going to put a pilot on there. Resistance X-Wing. Let's see what it is. Let's see it, opponent. They've got a Nien. Okay, so Nien comes down. We've got another L3. I'm just going to drop in a Millennium Falcon here. Let's attack in for 2 first, though. Okay, let's go Millennium Falcon. Let's see what my opponent has. They have a red leader. That's a little bit scary. They're going to be able to put a pilot on that, and then... Oh, they're going to claim initiative. All right, well, we're just going to Tarkin Town away that red leader then. Ooh, Han Solo is a pretty excellent draw. I'm going to resource this tactical heavy bomber. Don't think it's really going to be where we want to go. Well, I guess I can resource the Biggs. I don't think Biggs is where we want to go either. Now, if our opponent... Are they going to attack our base? Ooh, well, that ends up being pretty good for us. So what we're going to be able to do... I suppose we could bounce either one of them. Let's go and attack Leia here, and let's just see what my opponent decides to do. Gets down a bunker defender, huh? Okay, let's go ahead and just pilot this onto the Millennium Falcon, get in, hit the Resistance X-Wing. We'll deploy our Kazuda as a unit, and we will get into the bunker defender, and we will just remove some of these negative abilities and play a crafty smuggler. And now, I mean, we've got a lot of options. We can go Razor Crest, and now that we've drawn this Biggs, that's a pretty nice option. We can play Rebellious Hammerhead soon. Next turn, we can go L3 plus the Biggs, potentially. No, we can't. Millennium Falcon already has a pilot on it. Bunker Defender, that's a little bit of an odd one. Oh, they're just going to let us... Well, I'm going to kill the Leia so they can't get any damage. And they've got a Luke, which they're just going to deploy. Okay, I like where we are. I'm going to play a Razor Crest. And we'll see if what my opponent decides to do, rather. I think I want to get in an attack with the Kazuda so that he ends up dying. Let's go attack into the Luke. So I can remove the negative abilities. And this way I can guarantee use the Kazuda next turn. Let's get in for 5. And let's play this as a pilot, bouncing that Biggs. As I said, it is an exhausted leader, our unit. That's going to be pretty nice. Tactical heavy bomber. Going to be the resource here. We're just going to drop in. Oh, they're just claiming initiative, huh? Okay. We're just getting in for a bunch of damage then. Oh, it doesn't give me an option to not deal damage to something? That's a little bit awkward. Oh, well. I suppose my opponent didn't have anything? I doubt that. I think they're just claiming initiative. No, they're saying GG, which it was a pretty close game. Our opponent had a really nice aggressive start, but that Han Solo really did some major work. Bunker Defender, huh? Not something I would have expected. I do think the Leia is a pretty nice addition. Depending on the deck that you're running, it can do some pretty cool stuff. Being a restorer, being someone that can give you an immediate attack, and just being a 3/4 bodies. All just kind of a little bit of minor value here, a little bit of minor value there, which makes for a decent unit. So pretty cool stuff. On to the next one. Into our next matchup, we're using Boba Yellow, which I do want a fireball for this matchup, but everything else kind of looks a little bit mediocre. So we're going to go and resource our mulligan that one and see what will end up here. This one's a good amount better. I'm going to resource this L3, and I think I will actually resource the Razor Crest. Actually, I'm going to resource the Contracted Hunter. Fugitive Wookiee into Fugitive Wookiee plus Daring Raid is going to be a pretty nice combination. They're going to claim initiative. We're going to pass, and ooh, there's a Fireball and a Cartel Turncoat. I really like how this is decided to shape up. I'm going to resource the Fugitive Wookiee now, and we'll see where we go from there. Daring Raid plus Fireball is not a bad turn, too. Let's just go to get in with the Fugitive Wookiee and see what my opponent decides to play here. Okay, they went with a Greedo. I think what I will do is just Daring Raid the TIE Silencer. And a Crafty Smuggler, huh? Let's go Fireball. And we all just go ahead and make it so the Fireball loses all abilities. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really expect my opponent to go this direction. I would have expected something a lot different. But I think we could just kind of go all in on our aggressive plan in the skies. Triple Dark Raid here, huh? Let's see what our opponent's got. They've got a Fett's Fire Spray, huh? Let's go ahead and remove the abilities on this Fugitive Wookiee and just get in for 3 into their base. Opponent's going to get in a lot of damage here, for sure. Oh, they're... Okay, yeah. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really expect that. Let's go Millennium Falcon. And let's go Cartel Turncoat and just get in as much damage as possible. I would have expected my opponent just to race. With what they've got going on here, I would have just expected them to go all in. They're going to go ahead and attack. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this as a pilot on the Millennium Falcon. I'm very surprised with what my opponent's deciding to do here. Now, I could have gone with a unit, like a Kazuda unit instead, just because of what my opponent decided to do. But I decided to go this way because my opponent's going to be incentivized to go after this Fugitive Wookiee to exhaust my Millennium Falcon. And then I'll just go ahead and put a Tactical Heavy Bomber down, which I don't mind at all. And I'll get in with the Cartel Turncoat. So now I most likely will have initiative, and my opponent won't be able to do a whole lot. Because my opponent's going to be incentivized to hit... Ooh, okay, so they've got a P-38. So they happen to have kind of the ideal card for this particular situation, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. Let's go Cartel Turncoat. We'll deal 1 to the Cartel Turncoat. They'll go ahead and exhaust the Millennium Falcon. We're going to go ahead and just take out the P-38. They can go ahead and do whatever. P-38 is definitely the ideal card for my opponent to have there. We're going to go ahead and just drop in a Republic Heavy Bomber or Tactical Heavy Bomber. Let's see what my opponent's going to do. We got to be a little bit wary of our base HP here. They do have the Fetz Fire Spray potentially. Okay, they're going to take initiative. We've got a Biggs. We got a Millennium Falcon. I think I will just not resource anything. We will pay 1. Ruthless Raider, huh? Okay, let's go ahead and just take some damage on this Millennium Falcon. And I will just go ahead and trade with the Ruthless Raider, even though it's a little bit odd for me to do so, because we can't have Boba Fett deploying on it. They're going to get in for 5. They're going to get in for a lot of damage here, which is a little bit worrisome, but nothing much that you can do about that. Let's go ahead and... Do I want to get in with Surprise Strike? Oh, this is a tricky one, huh? So they deploy Boba. It's going to be 4 damage and then 4 damage again. So I think what I want to do is actually just Surprise Strike in for 8. That's going to be 8 indirect damage to my opponent. That's going to be 8 damage plus a lot of more damage. It's going to prevent them from deploying Boba here. So they're going to take 2. They're going to take 1. They're going to take a ton there. And that's pretty awesome. So they can't deploy. Well, they did, and that's game. Because we have the Tactical Heavy Bomber. She's going to get in. And Biggs plus Tactical Heavy Bomber here. I mean, that thing hit for insane amounts of damage. That was crazy. That was 8. That was 13 damage that was dealt by this heavy bomber. Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I think one decision I could have made differently, based on what I had on the board, I think I did make the wrong decision here, was just deploy Kazuda as a crown unit and control a little bit better. Because I did have that Wookiee. I was thinking, okay, they were just going to get rid of their units, but obviously if they have P-38, which they're going to be playing in their deck for sure, then it's really bad for us, and that's what they had, and it was really bad for us. We still got there. I think going with a Surprise Strike was a good move. Because if we went with the Millennium Falcon, we would have attacked for 5. They would have dealt, maybe 3 to their units, and then they would have taken another 2, which would have put them not quite in lethal range. But getting an attack in for 8 plus 8 indirect damage was insane. That was definitely a massive, massive hit. Biggs was a great draw for that reason. And moving on to the next game. Into our next game, we got a pretty good hand. The Fireball plus a bunch of early units. I think I'm actually going to resource the Cartel Turncoats because I don't really want to be doing that. And they played a black one, which is the ideal card to see. Fireball just kills it. That is incredible. That is exactly what you want to be seeing. And I was hoping that that's what we were going to see. So everything kind of worked itself out there. Love that. I think I'm going to resource the surprise strike here. I don't think the game is going to really come down to that specific card, but we'll see what my opponent decides to do here on turn 2. If they got like a blue leader, I think I'm just going to kill it. I'm probably just going to get the stolen AT hauler down. That's going to be a big unit. It's going to be a big unit. Opponent's trying to probably figure out what to do, since they probably were hoping that their black one was going to live, especially with initiative. But Fireball is the key card for this particular situation. My opponent's going to ECL out the Y-Wing. Okay, we're just going to drop in a stolen AT hauler, and now they're down ECL. They have no units on board. We are in an extremely favorable position at this stage of the game, by far. Like, that is really us favored. I'm trying to think of anything that they could have to maybe kill this stolen AT hauler out of nowhere, but I don't really see it. Like, Poe Green isn't really going to be playing any units like that. Like, they could potentially be playing something like a open fire, but that doesn't quite kill it. Blue leader also doesn't quite do it, right? So not really worried about any of that. Looks like they're trying to play blue leader, but... oh, they're just going to ambush. Okay, we're going to go to make sure that it loses abilities. And we are just going to play the Razor Crest here. And we'll see what my opponent decides to do. Daring Raid, huh? Sure. That makes it so they can't play it anyways. And I think what we'll do is just... do I want to just claim initiative? I suppose I will. I really want to get Kazuda down here right now. They won't be able to play the stolen ET hauler because I removed the abilities, so maybe that was their plan, but it's not going to work. Biggs part 2 going to be the resource here. I'm just going to get in with the Razor Crest here, starting us off, and then we'll see what my opponent decides to do afterwards. Remember, any exhausted unit can be bounced as long as 4 less cost if I do go ahead and put Kazuda on the Razor Crest. Senatorial Corvette going to be the choice here. It's going to be a nice little addition. I could have gotten an additional 2 damage and then additional 2 damage this turn had I deployed Kazuda, but I'm just not sure that's really all that relevant, what we got going on here. Let's go ahead and pass. I'm just curious as to what my opponent's going to play. Yep, let's go ahead and just deploy as a pilot onto the Razor Crest to bounce the K2. Just use up all their resources. I figured if they were going to claim initiative, we've already used up our resources, so that's totally fine by me. They're going to go BB-8 as a unit. Okay, so we're going to go and just claim initiative. That's a punch it. That's not too bad. Yeah, not too bad at all. I think we just go punch it plus Han here. I shouldn't have resourced the contracted hunter. I meant to. I was thinking and then I just resourced, and sometimes when I was thinking and resource it ruins it, but I should have kept that, because my plan right now is to go punch it plus a Han attack with a Senatorial Corvette, which leaves it so that we have 3 resources so that we can play the contracted hunter onto the BB-8, right? Our opponent probably doesn't have too much. One thing that they could have is like a blue leader, but even then, they wouldn't be able to ambush as a 5-power unit in the space arena. So I think the game is pretty much over, and it looks like our opponent just left. So I guess GG. I do think we would have won that game. Han Solo comes down, attacks for 7. That's at 10 damage. We punch it. That's at 18. They now have, or we still have a 7-3 or a 7-7 left over. So we just get an attack in next turn, and they can attack in for 5 at the current moment. Do they have like a 4 cost? It can be a little bit more, things like that. But I think that we were heavily advantaged, mainly because of the fireball in turn 1, right? Like, that was absurd. And I guess our opponent was expecting to go stolen ET hauler, but that wasn't quite the case because of our Kazuda. So pretty nice, and move on to the next game. Into our next game, and I have been waiting for this moment for a long time. I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm going to resource one of the cartel turncoats and probably a fugitive Wookiee. And we're going to go fugitive Wookiee into They Hate That Ship, into the tactical heavy bomber, as I had mentioned previously. Oh, they're going to go with the Kajimi Patrollers. Huh, okay. I'm not gonna, I honestly did not really expect the Kajimi Patrollers, but I do think that card's actually pretty good in the Dooku deck. I I think that's a really nice adaptation. Let's go ahead and get an attack in with the Fugitive Wookiee, and let's see what my opponent decides to do. We're going to go They Hate That Ship into the Republic Tactical Heavy Bomber, and we'll see what my opponent decides to do after that. That does give them a lot of fuel for the Count Dooku, so I'm not saying that that's a great play necessarily, but one of the things that we decided to do here was play They Hate That Ship, and honestly, They Hate That Ship isn't really that good unless you're getting it early into the game like we just had here. Punch It looks pretty good. I do like that in this situation. Here, I am just going to actually remove the abilities on the Fugitive Wookiee, and then I'm just going to get in an attack with the Fugitive Wookiee just for the 3 damage. And we'll see what my opponent has. I mean, they could do a lot of different things. They could have like an invisible hand coming down soon, which would be pretty nice. I do want to get the Kazuda onto the Tactical Heavy Bomber this turn. But I suppose what I'll first do is actually play out the Millennium Falcon, and we'll see what my opponent decides to do in response to that. Because if I get Kazuda on here, it's going to be a 6-8, and then I punch, it's going to be 8 indirect damage, which is a lot of indirect damage. But I'm worried my opponent has like a No Good To Me Dead or something of that nature. And it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. So I actually really do like my position here. Let's go ahead and just get in an attack with this Millennium Falcon into their base. And we'll see if my opponent decides to start attacking the Tactical Heavy Bomber, because if they do, well, Droid Commando coming in. Okay, not a bad play. Let's go ahead and just drop the Kazuda onto the Tactical Heavy Bomber. And we will go ahead and punch it into the base for 8. And they can just shower their units with indirect damage. But that is pretty... That's just a lot of damage. That's just a lot of damage. We'll resource one of the stolen ET haulers. They've got they've got Overwhelming Barrage, but that doesn't even change anything for us. I mean, I don't know if they forgot that a Tactical Heavy Bomber just hits their base for an absurd amount. They definitely should have spread that over the TIE fighters. I honestly was expecting more of a little bit of a meme deck, and like the Vulture Droids and the Invisible Hand and all that type of stuff. But we got kind of like a more just standardized command cunning style. I do like the Kajimi Patrollers. I think that's a nice addition in terms of just getting exploit fodder out there. But the Tactical Heavy Bomber has been doing some work. And I know it was a little bit more of a meme and they could have had a lot of answers, but getting the Hate That Ship down, putting the Kazuda onto the Tactical Heavy Bomber, that did close out the game for us, and that was pretty sweet. So on to the next one. Into our next matchup, and we've got a pretty good one against the Tarkin Town Django Classic that we had been seeing for so long. I'm going to resource this Punch It, and I'll probably resource, honestly, this Contracted Hunter. And I'm just going to go L3 into probably They Hate That Ship a little bit later on. Let's go ahead and pass. We can go They Hate That Ship into the Senatorial Corvette, which could be interesting. We could also just play the Stolen ET Hauler. I guess we'll find out what our opponent's doing here realistically before we make any decisions. They could go like P-38, which wouldn't be too bad for them. They're going to attack the base. Okay, we're also going to attack the base. Let's see what they're going to do, though. They're going to pass. Do they have a P-38 to deploy is the question. And I think based on what they're doing, they do. My guess is they have a P-38. They're trying to use the trigger. Yep. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that it loses abilities and then claim initiative. Nothing too crazy there. I expected a P-38. That's exactly what we got. And our opponent has to decide now whether or not they want to use this Tarkin Town on our Stolen AT Hauler. Okay, Daring Raid is definitely not bad at all. Second Millennium Falcon. I think They Hate That Ship is actually pretty bad at this stage of the game. Let's go lose abilities on the Stolen AT Hauler. Attack in for 4. We can go Millennium Falcon and Daring Raid this turn, which I do like. And again, if we deploy Kazuda, we can remove the Millennium Falcon's negative ability, so I do like that as well. Okay, they're going to go ahead and finish off the Stolen AT Hauler. That's totally fine with us, right? We ended up getting as the value that we wanted to, right? because we got in damage and our opponent didn't really get to do anything. They're going to go triple dark raid. Let's see what my opponent's got. There is a Fet's Fire Spray. Okay. Let's go ahead and deploy Kazuda as a unit. And we'll see what my opponent wants to do here. So they can go and exhaust. That's fine. We're going to daring raid the crafty smuggler. And then they probably will attack with the Fet's Fire Spray. And then we can get Millennium Falcon down. It actually works out pretty nicely for us, right? Because we're going to be able to get in damage. They may have exhausted the Kazuda, but now this allows us to get in more damage at the end of the day. And that's exactly what we're really looking for, right? And yes, we can pay one. Doesn't really matter here a whole lot. I don't think we're going to be using this Senatorial Corvette. But this is kind of exactly what I was looking for, right? Okay, they're going to go ahead and get a Jango Fett down. Let's go ahead and attack him with Kazuda. Cartel Spacer, exhaust my Millennium Falcon. Sure, let's get in for 2. They're going to kill the Kazuda. That's fine. I think in this stage of the game, we're just going to go... I just want to go Fugitive Wookiee here. I think I do. Okay, we're going to go ahead and claim initiative. Bigs, huh? Don't mind that. I think the tactical heavy bomber is not really where I want to be. Let's go ahead and make sure the Fugitive Wookiee doesn't have any negative abilities and just get in for 3. We haven't been able to use Tarkin Town, but neither have they. We're actually in a pretty good spot because we can go Fireball, Kill Your Cartel Spacer. We can also go... Ooh, Ruthless Raider comes in. That's actually a pretty nice one for sure. Let's go L3 into the base. And now we actually have the win because Cartel Spacer's not going to stop this Millennium Falcon. As soon as we play Fireball, ambush the Cartel Spacer, we go Millennium Falcon, put a Biggs on it, and that's going to be 5 damage. They don't really have any other option available to them. This is going to be GG. Ruthless Raider is pretty good, but we ended up getting there just by kind of playing units that were a little bit annoying, right? Stolen AT Hauler is really good in this spot. Our opponent doesn't have any options. Like, we have removed the bounty from Fugitive Wookiee, so they cannot use that to exhaust. They don't have any options. They just got to be attacking or choose not to attack, but, you know, that's totally fine. We've got the Millennium Falcon. They can attack. That's fine. We are going to put a Biggs on the Millennium Falcon, and that's going to be GG. So GG to my opponent, and there you go. Jango Red taken down here. Pretty classic Jango Red, actually, taken down by the Kazuda. They hate that ship. Would have been kind of awkward in this matchup because they would have had the TIE Fighters plus Tarkin Town to kill off a few things. But overall, I mean, pretty good stuff. Into our next and final matchup, we got ourselves a match against Darth Vader, which I do think is going to be a fun one. I'm going to resource the Senatorial Corvette, and I think I'm going to resource the Stolen AT Hauler because my current plan is go Cartel Turncoat plus the Biggs. My opponent isn't really playing a deck that I think they'll be able to deal with this, and we will get overwhelmed through their units. And then we can go Millennium Falcon and kill off whatever other unit they have, which is going to be really nice to kind of set up domination in the Space Force. And the reason I'm going this way is because we can kill their units, which is going to be annoying for Darth Vader to deal with, while also getting in damage, right? Because of the overwhelm, since the Cartel Turncoat is a fighter unit. And they're not running Tarkin Town. If they were running Tarkin Town, I couldn't go this direction because they could just finish off my Cartel Turncoat with Tarkin Town. So this is going to be a really, really nice way to kind of get a little bit of extra value here. And then we go Millennium Falcon. That's going to be really nice as well. They're going to go +3/+3 onto their Kijimi Patrollers, which I am totally fine with, by the way. I am just going to trade. That's fine with me. They've used their entire turn 2 to do that. That's totally fine. We're going to go Millennium Falcon, just start getting in damage here. I think I am just going to attack their base and ignore their little bit of space units there. Home 1 actually could be pretty good in this spot. I think I will resource this L3 though, because we don't really have a nice combination of resources to play like Contracted Hunter plus something else. So I think I'm just going to smuggle out an L3. Home 1 could be really good in this matchup because is this going to be a 6 resource 7/8 ambusher, which I do like. So I think that's what I'm going to stick with. They've got a Dengar here, and that's okay. they going to smuggle this out or just play this out as a 5-4? I think they should probably be playing this out as a 5-4. Yeah. In that case, I am going to change what my plan was, because I'm going to make the Millennium Falcon lose abilities, and I will kill off their TIE Fighter here. And then I'm just going to run out the Contracted Hunter, trade, flip, and attack in. And then we'll pass. Another home one, not exactly what I wanted to see. We do have the Han Solo, though, which can be ambushed out. I decided to go it this way because our opponent seems to be really stuck because they don't have a bunch of space units. And then they have a bunch of pilots, which are going to be kind of awkward in the ground, but they want to kind of deploy on their space units. So if we just remove that, I think it's going to be really awkward for Darth Vader, especially because we don't want to be deploying Darth Vader. It's going to be really poor for us. We've got the Von Reg's TIE Interceptor. Let's go ahead and just get in some damage with Kazuda and see what they're going to do afterwards. They're going to claim initiative. Okay, we will take out the Von Reg's TIE Interceptor then, and then just play a Senatorial Corvette as the follow-up. Home one, is it something that we want? I think I'm just going to resource the Stolen AT Hauler, because I actually may deploy the home one. If our opponent deploys Darth Vader, we do get kind of a free home one, which is pretty nice. They're going to play a War Juggernaut. Sure. Sure. Let's go ahead and attack in 2 with Kazuda. And we will submit 0, actually, because we don't need to remove any abilities here. And we'll see if my opponent just deploys Darth Vader and just starts getting in some damage. I think that's a pretty reasonable play from them. Oh, I didn't think about that, but they can deploy Vader onto the War Juggernaut. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that's actually something they wanted to do here, because I think they just wanted to get an immediate damage. But I always forget that pilots can be on vehicles even if they're on the ground. And here we're just going to smuggle on L3. We'll go ahead and just give it a shield. We put a surprise strike into the resource pile, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, we got a nice hand here. Surprise strike is pretty good. The Senatorial Corvette's going to be pretty tough to deal with. Now, they could have an overrolling barrage, and if they do, the game's probably over. I don't really know how we can come back from that. Ooh, they do have overrolling barrage, and that's going to wipe out everything, right? That's just going to wipe out everything. And that's going to be pretty brutal. As I said, that is something that I don't know how we deal with in this spot. So yeah, that is rough. We're going to be able to go ahead and surprise strike in with this L3 for 5. And my opponent, I mean, overrolling barrage, that is pretty good. Ooh, they're going to use the Apology Accepted, which is actually pretty good for us. I mean, they're going to hit us for 13 and then hit us for another 13, which is absolutely sweet, by the way. Like, really, really cool. We almost got there, but that overwhelming barrage was really clutch. Despite us kind of knocking down everything, them just slapping down a big old unit and then finishing us off is just enough to get there. And that was a pretty sweet game, right? GG. We barely were missing out there. I think, was there anything that could have been done differently? I could have just kind of ignored their units a little bit more. The War Juggernaut, just being a big unit, putting Vader onto it, and then having a massive unit was just good, right? They could have deployed Vader, gotten an attack, but then that would have put us with the initiative. So it makes sense why they went with the overwhelming barrage play. That does make complete sense when they went with the deploy onto War Juggernaut, right? And sometimes you just get there with overwhelming barrage. I mean, that card is crazy. And sometimes that just doesn't the work all on its own, right? Really cool stuff there. And I do love Vader. It's a good time to see it. It's a good time to see it. All right, what did we learn with Kazuda Red? Well, we had some pretty fun games. And I'll say this deck just has a good shell. It just has a good shell. Things like Fireball, Millennium Falcon, they're already insane cards, and removing their downsides just makes this deck really strong on a baseline. Same with Contracted Hunter, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure about some of the other cards in the deck yet. I do think Stolen AT Hauler is pretty good, as you saw in a couple of those matches. One of the cards that we really were indexing towards in this list was They Hate That Ship, and we got it in one game in the starting hand, which isn't like absurd, like, oh my gosh, we should have gotten in way more starting hands or anything like that. But it's just something to remember. This card is really good. And in that game, They Hate That Ship was pretty good as well. But But cards like Home One, for example, we didn't even get to play. Rebellious Hammerhead, we got to play once, and it didn't really do that insane work because it was super late in the game. We did get to play a Tactical Heavy Bomber earlier, and that card actually ended up doing a lot more work than I expected. In 2 different games, with the Kazuda deploy onto Tactical Heavy Bomber, that's pretty sweet. I think this is one of those decks where Sneak Attack could be pretty good into as well, just because they immediately readied up things like Tactical Heavy Bomber, putting Kazuda onto it, getting in for 6+6 indirect damage. Like, that's just going to be a lot of damage in general. Razor Crest did some work with Kazuda as well. But overall, honestly, you could probably just omit They Hate That Ship, run a little bit more of a standardized curve, run things like more heroism cards, and maybe remove some of these things like Punch It, Crafty Smuggler, Surprise Strike, and exchange them out for other cards. It's kind of tough to do that because a lot of cards are cunning based, like Contractor Hunter and AT Hauler are pretty good in Kazuda, but they're not heroism, because then you might be able to go like For a Cause, or you could just run in straight up with just more standardized curve, more copies of Daring Raid, make the deck a little bit more consistent, maybe put in a little bit more pilots to do things like that. But overall, I mean, Kaz Red is a strong deck, and it's one of the things that everyone has kind of been toying with, and it's just, again, has really good bones. Millennium Falcon, Fireball, Contractor Hunter, all of those can go in any version of Kazuda because they're all cunning cards, which is a really nice start. So you can go a lot of different directions, and they're all pretty good, and it's a lot of fun. I think They Hate That Ship in this deck, it didn't really perform as well. Maybe in another deck, maybe like a Luke deck or something like that, you could see a little bit more value there. But thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and I will see you all for a video